This is IAQradio, Indoor Air Quality Radio, the voice of the indoor air quality industry, with your host, Radio Joe Hughes, and the Z-Man, Cliff Zlotnick. And now, Radio Joe Hughes.
Good day and welcome to IAQ Radio Plus. On episode number 507, we came to you live from the IAQA Mid Atlantic Conference in Princeton, New Jersey. Our guests for the show were Dr. Eva King and Dr. Wei Tang. In addition, Bob Krell of Healthy Indoors magazine joined me for both the interview and a short interview of his own. We had some technical issues with the audio on this show, so I suggest you choose closed caption on the YouTube video if you have trouble hearing our guests. Before we get started, let's thank our marquee sponsors.
IAQ Radio marquee sponsors are John Don Products, where restoration and abatement contractors shop. Visit them at jondon.com. That's JONDON.com. Healthy Indoor Magazine, a free online digital magazine for industry professionals and consumers. Subscriptions are available at healthyindoors.com. Particles Plus, engineers and manufacturers feature rich particle counters, air quality monitoring, instrumentation, and vacuum pump technology. ParticlesPlus.com. Count on us.
Okay, I want to mention that, and we'll have some more information in the blog on this, that Dawn Weeks and Lan Chi are offering a matching up to $10,000 for a memorial fund for Dr. Phil Morey. It's a scholarship fund through the AIHA. They announced at the AIHA Philadelphia meeting they'll be matching up to $10,000. We'll put the link to that on the blog, and then next week we'll have it in the show announcement. All right, Cliff, let me turn it over to you for today's IAQ Radio trivia question.
And now you can win a cool prize. It's time for the IAQ Radio trivia question. Be the first to correctly answer. Simply email your answer to czlotnick@cs.com. Or if listening live, just text your answer from your computer. And now, here's the Z-Man with this week's IAQ Radio trivia question.
Hello, everyone. Congratulations go out to Doug Conan, Airtech Environmental, Dayton, Ohio, for being first to identify 5 as the number of graduates in LSU's College of Agriculture's first graduating class. The IAQ radio question for today, Friday, June 15, 2018, has been sponsored by Ideas, the solution chemistry company, creating unique solutions to odor removal, surface cleaning, and decontamination problems. Here is today's question. Name the organization that develops and enforces occupational health standards for New Jersey's public sector workers. Back to you, Joe.
We're live from the IAQA Mid Atlantic Conference, and we've got Dr. Eva King. Always great to have you on that. And
Thanks so much for having me.
Good to see you too. Anyway, since we last saw each other, you have changed your job essentially, right?
I have
Can
indeed.
you tell listeners a little what you're doing now and what led to this pretty big change, actually?
Yeah, pretty big change indeed. So I work for Indoor Biotechnology as a researcher and developing methodologies and handling customers and contract research, all those kind of things for over 12 years. And earlier this year, I made the jump and I decided to change my profession and become an IAQ consultant. So I started my own IAQ consulting business, or EnviroScience, and I have to say I am loving it. Absolutely loving it.
Good for you. Good for you. So you were in the corporate world. I know we talked a little earlier, and there's a lot of travel and conferences and all that, but you're still obviously doing some travel and speaking and so on.
Sure.
What has your first impression been of doing indoor environmental quality? You know, you've done other types of research-based, I think, more so than anything. And I noticed this morning you were talking about laboratory allergies that people that work with labs and animals that get. So you've done a lot of, hands-on kind of stuff, but this has to be a little different. What's your first impression?
Yeah, this is a little different because I'm, for many years I've kind of been the consultant to the consultants.
Yes.
Right. So when the folks who were going into the buildings and going into the crawl spaces and everywhere.
Crawl spaces are a big one. All right.
Crawl spaces,
You're on the front line of crawl spaces now.
They encountered something that they didn't know what to do with. They would call me, and I would try to help them remotely. And I'm really enjoying now actually being the one who is putting on the Sherlock hat, and going into the building and trying to figure out what's gone wrong, where are the problems coming from, and really, going through that building with a fine-tooth comb and try to find the issue and come up with a solution. And I really enjoy doing it.
You're a people person. Let's be honest here. I mean, Eva's she gets along with everybody. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say a bad word about Eva. So that's a big part of what we do, though.
Yeah.
You have to deal with the consumers in their home, and they have problems, and we're there to try and solve them. Crawl spaces. We talked a little bit before the show about crawl spaces. You just did one, and I love what you told me, because it's a common problem out there. Apparently, you went to look at one, and someone had already been done in. Tell listeners a little bit about it.
Yeah, this was interesting. So this was a home, an old home that had problems with water in the crawl space, and they had to come in some beforehand. They just put plastic sheeting. They just covered the ground and up the wall, and the problem was solved. Well, water obviously was underneath the plastic, and the plastic wasn't sealed, so the seams weren't even sealed. So it was crawling into that space was like getting on top of a waterbed. It was quite impressive. And I got in there, and at some point, you put your knee down into a hole, and the seam in front of you just opens up, and there's just this wave of mud and water splashing out of there. So yeah, your problem has not been solved. Let me tell you that.
It has not.
So yeah, but it was an example for where it was a fairly easy solution to all of this, right?
Sure.
But it's just a case of having somebody actually tell you how you can fix this problem, and charging somebody for putting some plastic down was obviously not the solution to that problem. So, but that I really enjoy the practical component of that, and dealing with the people who have the problems and really trying to help, trying to solve the actual problem.
It made me, when we talked about that particular crawl space, it made me, I teach classes, and then we have consultants that come in and contractors. I work with both, and we talk about conditioned crawl spaces, and it just made me realize I learned something new every day, that, and maybe I taught that guy. I hope not, but you never know. Right?
Sure not.
But I try to focus, we focus on enclosing and conditioning the crawl space, but then sometimes I don't think we focus enough on getting the water out from underneath that plastic as well. So I think that's a great story to relate to listeners. And it's not cheap. My son has a little construction company, and we live at a lake that has a lot of crawl space issues. The water's changing. The water table has changed a little. There's some mining close by. We don't know if that's why. But, when they did the job, they had to go in and dig tunnels, and an inch below the ground is rock. So they're trying to dig these trenches to drain the water and to get a sump pump in and all that. That really was the most expensive and difficult part of the job. And sometimes I don't think we think about that when we say, well, you can condition a crawl. Now, not every crawl is going to need the extensive type of channeling that we did and so forth, but I think it's something some people skip over. Absolutely. And you're in Virginia. Was that a Virginia job?
Yeah, that was a Virginia job.
So you're kind of in crawl space, ground central.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Crawl spaces everywhere. All right. So enough crawl spaces. You're the allergen person. And while you were speaking, I was unfortunately pulled a couple different ways, but I wanted to ask you a question. You were talking about allergens, and as I understand, we're allergic to proteins.
Yes, allergens are proteins.
Okay, so allergens are proteins, and these proteins can be found in many is it all living organisms that people can be allergic to, or just certain ones?
Technically, they could come from everything, but the thing is, so all allergens are proteins, but not all proteins are allergens. Right?
Okay.
So we need proteins. I mean, the meat you eat, everything. We need a lot of protein every day just to survive. But there are certain proteins that, for reasons that we as scientists don't quite understand yet, are prone to cause allergic reactions, right? So and there's and you can find those proteins in a whole wide range of different organisms, right? In dust mites, for example, there are certain proteins that are found particularly in the fecal particles of the dust mite that cause allergic reactions in certain people. Or in cats, I mean, there's primarily one allergen that is found and that cats secrete in their saliva and the sebaceous glands onto the skin, and that's how it gets onto the dander, that people react to. The thing is that we find allergens in all kinds of protein families. So protein can have different 3D structures, and they can have different functions. I mean, they can be digestive enzymes, or they can be structural proteins,
or the building blocks of
they can be all kinds of things. And we haven't found yet what actually makes an allergen an allergen, because we find allergenic proteins in all kinds of different protein classes and biologic functions. So unfortunately, nobody's been able to really pin down what it actually is about that particular protein that makes it more allergenic.
Are we starting to learn a little better what the cascade of events is that occurs in the body?
Yes, we do know how that works. What we don't understand very well yet is why there are so many more allergies in people nowadays than there used to be. That is not something that's just perception, that we think that more people are allergic to things. That is actually happening. There's been a steady increase in the prevalence of allergies and asthma over the last 40, 50 years. That's real. It's not just perception.
And not just through inhalation of allergens, but also through ingestion. Are both of those growing, not just one or the other?
Yes.
Okay.
Food allergies have been on the rise, as well as inhalation or contact allergies. I mean, you can also have allergic reactions through skin contact.
I think the last 30 to 40 or even 50 years, we've changed the way we build. We've changed the way we condition the indoor environment. We've extended our time indoors to multiple indoor environments, and we've changed our whole food chain. And if you think about it, right, our food chain is currently, we have all this processed food that we didn't eat 30 or 40 or 50 years ago.
And I mean, there are lots and lots of studies that have looked at various aspects of this, and it really currently looks like the reasoning behind that is kind of a mosaic of things associated with the westernized modern lifestyle, right? There is the our homes are different. It's tighter. We spend more time inside. We're more exposed to the stuff that is in there. There's different chemicals that you're exposed to in addition to the allergens while you're in there. We move less, which also has effects on how their immune system reacts to things. Food processing. We're generally cleaner, or you might say, all right, but allergies are really, really bad in the cities, and that's not exactly clean, but it appears to be not the right kind of dirt. Right? It has to be the right kind of dirt.
You need the right dirt. Come on, get out there and eat some dirt.
So the fact that we now know that the microbiome, you were talking about this earlier, the diversity of microbes that live in and on us has gotten a lot poorer. There's a lot, there's a lot less. Our microbiome now has a lot less diversity than it used to have.
Our personal microbiome. Okay, interesting. What about in the gut? Is that also the same? Okay.
All of that. So the bugs that live on us, there's a lot less of them, and the diversity is and that appears to also have an influence on things like allergies. But there's research appearing that our microbiome and our gut bacteria also influence other factors of our life. I mean, I came across a study recently that was talking about psychiatric.
I was thinking,
I mean,
the same with particulate. They think maybe particulate has something to do with it.
It can get in. I mean, it gets into the system. So it is fascinating. It is very complicated, and one of those. The more we learn, the more questions we ask. But that's a good thing. We're really starting to see some patterns.
You just brought a couple questions for me. All right, one. We have chemicals. You mentioned there's both chemicals and these allergens kind of in the same indoor environment and somehow somewhat interacting. I mean, they have an effect on each other. Can people be allergic in the classical sense of the term to volatile organic compounds or chemical compounds of any kind?
No, that is a difference between a true allergic reaction, which is an immune reaction involving certain types of antibodies, which is called IgE, immunoglobulin E. That's a cascade for the allergic pathway. But whereas VOCs, those are irritants. They trigger different kinds of response, but it's not an immune response similar to what's seen now.
I see. And then the other question I had is the proteins. How do I say this? Is there a way to denature or neutralize?
Yes.
Okay, because we're always focused on removal of them, and I'm wondering if maybe like dust mite allergen. Dust mite is hard to get.
Yes.
All right. You've got to keep your relative humidity below 50%. You've got to do HEPA vacuuming,
which is really hard to do in a bed.
Very hard to do in a bed, exactly. Or your pet's bed, or in a bathroom, or wherever it may be. So, is there a way to denature? Is that the right term? These proteins?
Yes, but.
Yes, but. Okay.
So there's a whole work over the years, worked with a whole lot of manufacturers of various procedures and cleaning products whose aim was to show, this product denatures, so it gets rid of allergens.
Like bleach, wasn't it one time?
Yeah.
Thought to denature mold spores or something along.
And oftentimes it's the cure is more deadly than it is.
Yeah. It's like chemotherapy. Which is worse.
But then one thing that I've consistently over testing all these different products that were being developed at the time, that if it might work really well for one allergen, but have virtually no effect on another one. And that is because all these allergens, they have different protein structures, and the different structures come with different stability, different physical characters. So and then if it is something that really destroys all of them, all of these proteins, it's probably also going to destroy your carpet.
Not good for you or your carpet, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is that. So but having said that, I mean, all these allergens they're very soluble. So usually, if you can clean a surface, a hard surface, if you can clean a hard surface with water, generally you can get rid of all of them.
Okay.
Wash them off because they are soluble. But when you're looking for porous materials and mattresses and stuff, bedding, things get a little more complicated.
Do you know if anybody's working on I'm sure someone's trying to develop a product for denaturing the protein that causes dust mite allergy, for instance? Is that?
Yeah, but I wouldn't be allowed to talk about
Okay, all right.
She'll have to kill you.
You have to kill me first. All right.
I don't want to be part of that.
I just thought I'd try. But it seems to me that's got to be one of the potential. You got two answers, right? You either don't, or three. You don't let it in there in the first place. Tough to do. Once it's in there, you clean it up. Not easy to do for dust mite, for instance.
But you can encapsulate for dust mites, for example. You can there are materials out there that form a really effective barrier to separate you from what's been growing in the mattress.
The covers, the pillow covers.
But when you go in for those, I mean, there's a lot of these encapsulated covers out there that are pure marketing hype. There's a lot of
pure marketing hype. Okay.
There's a bunch of them out there that don't do jack squat. They have to have a pore size of about 2 microns. I mean, they have to be super, super tightly woven. I mean, the dust mites themselves are way bigger than that, but the problem is not the dust mites themselves, it's the fecal pellets, which are a lot smaller.
Right.
And they also break up.
Fragments of that.
Exactly. Yeah. So there were in the late 90s there were some studies done that looked at different materials and how permeable they were for those allergens. And if you had microfiber materials with a pore size of 2 or 5 microns, you're good. So you can separate yourself from it. So if you if you do this encapsulate your mattress with that, and then once a week hot wash or your bedding. I mean, that's the thing. You need to make sure that you keep removing the reservoir that builds up again.
How often would you recommend people actually get a new bed? Is there a standard thought on that in the allergy world?
Well, I don't know. I would say once your mattress gets really saggy and you get a backache,
then it's time. Okay. I was just thinking about, you got these dust mites in. They get in there, and the pillows. I mean, we change our pillows pretty frequently. I'm very allergic. That's part of the reason. I'm very allergic to dust mites. They drive me crazy, and sometimes I don't even want to know if they're there. I mean, it's I know.
Well, they have 500,000 on you right now. They're about 500,000 to 1 million, right, on your clothing and everything.
I don't know.
I've
never counted.
Yeah, they're all over you.
Okay. Well, I don't even want to think about that right now. But anyway, I have another question. Dr. Eva King, you mentioned up there are no hypoallergenic dogs or cats.
Nope.
Did I get that right?
You did.
You can't encapsulate one?
Your money. Don't buy hypo. It's funny because I remember I was so upset with Barack Obama when he bought his hypoallergenic dog. He was like, no, don't.
First dog, yeah.
The first dog. You're telling people there is such a thing, and it's from what I understand, not true.
No. Well, so the way that works is, I mean, people generally think that dog breeds that don't shed. There's some dog breeds out there that shed a lot of hair.
Mm-hmm.
Great, not having a sofa covered in dog hair, it's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
But what most people don't get is that not shedding hair has nothing to do with not shedding parts, particularly that carries allergens.
And what is it supposed to be? The skin cells?
Yes.
The dander?
It's in the saliva. It comes out of the sebaceous glands on the skin, put onto the dander. It gets distributed and it travels on small particulates and gets carried in the air quite effectively. So it's not necessarily the hair. I mean, you don't inhale the hair, right? So
right.
Think about the exposure. So you're not inhaling the dust bunnies, right? So the dander is still produced even on the dogs that don't shed, and that still contains the dog allergen. Having said that, I mean there are no dog breeds that are hyperallergenic. That just doesn't exist.
No,
what studies have shown is, but that within a breed, individual dogs within a breed can vary huge in their production of allergens.
Oh,
so you can have an individual dog that produces very little allergen. That exists. That's and then the next door one is has 100 times more allergen production. That is actually the case.
How do you test that?
Well, you
take something.
Yeah,
it's a dog scraper.
You take samples straight from the dog. But this Dutch study showed that there was a big range of allergen production that differed by individual dogs, but not between breeds. Actually, some of the so-called hyperallergenic dog breeds produce more, which is really disappointing.
Yes.
But if you look at the homes that these dogs live, looking at the allergen concentration of dog allergen in the homes that these dogs were part of, there wasn't any difference really in the dog allergen, because even just imagine that even if an animal produces a relatively small amount of that, it's still accumulated in that environment. Right?
Well, if you're not cleaning it, yeah.
And you even with a low production, within a fairly short amount of time, you reach accumulation levels that are a problem. And you're just going to get, with one dog, you're going to get to that problematic level a little bit quicker than with the other one.
Okay. So it's going to happen eventually with whatever type of dog you have. Cliff, I want to make sure, do you have any, well, Cliff's mic's not on. I just wanted to see if Cliff, do you have any follow-ups or questions?
No, I'm good, thanks. It's good to see Eva and Bob.
You know what? got you muted. Go ahead, buddy. I'm sorry.
No, I have no follow-ups, but it's just good to see Eva and Bob. So that's good.
For some reason I got it. Oh, well. There you go. We've got you now, Cliff. Sorry about that.
No follow-up questions. It's just good to see both Eva and Bob. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know you're writing a lot, and I want to make sure we get that Dawn Week announcement. Dawn and Lanchi are matched up to $10,000 for Phil Moray scholarship fund, a memorial scholarship fund for Phil Moray. So I'll send you the link for that in the blog, etc. Any follow-up questions or thoughts?
I mean, I think it's great to see a regional event, and I don't know, I've been seeing the industry, the trend for the last decade. It seems like regional events have potentially more value, right? I mean, more networking. There's more. I mean, honestly, live events, the power of a live event is more for the people interacting, right? The offline discussions, all that stuff, and like events, the bigger an event gets, the less that happens, right? And you do stuff online. Online's great, but online you can't do that interactivity. So like these regional events, I think they play in really well. They're cost effective as far as attendees don't usually have to stay overnight. I mean, obviously, people maybe put that down to. But most of the attendees here are driving, or they're attending, so they're not incurring that big cost to come and see a good live series of presentations, and then get to interact with their peers, which is that's invaluable.
And I have to say, I mean, the Trenton chapter here, these guys have been doing a fantastic job in putting this together. I'm really, really impressed.
Mike Keller's a part of that, and then Wei Tang. Who else is on your board, Tom? That's it.
You guys are doing a great job.
They've done a fantastic job getting this together.
Probably the most active in all of IAQA this chapter,
so.
From what I understand. Done a great job. All right, one more question, Eva, before we go. Okay, so now you're an indoor environmental consultant. You got your CIEC, I noticed. So apparently you felt that had some value. I'm glad to hear that. And you go to homes. What's your take on sampling for allergens? I mean, if I've got a home that I know is a little moist, can I just assume there are dust mites there? Should I take a sample, maybe?
Well, you can't. The thing particularly with dust mites, you really can't assume.
You cannot assume?
You cannot assume.
Okay.
You cannot make those assumptions. If there's a cat in the house, you there's cat allergens in there.
Right.
So, I mean, you might as well not.
Or dog, the same thing, right?
Same thing. But with dust mites is one of those things you cannot make any assumptions. You might have a high level of dust mites, but your neighbor doesn't. Same humidity levels, whatever. You really can't make assumptions there. Having said that, you wouldn't. I mean, I don't routinely test for allergens myself. It's really, I mean, as with all sampling, it needs to be hypothesis based, right? You don't just go in there and take some air samples and do a pump jug.
It must be hypothesis. What are you trying to prove or disprove?
Exactly. I mean, any sampling needs to be hypothesis driven, and so I mean, if I'm working with somebody who is who knows they're allergic to certain things, and there is a chance that this might be an issue in this house or in this office building, then you're going there with to test the hypothesis. But I don't, and I would never recommend to anybody. Have never recommended to anybody to just randomly go out and collect allergen samples. It's, same as with all other sampling.
Along those lines, if I take an allergen sample here, an allergen sample there, am I going to get oftentimes very different levels? And then follow up to that are the levels that you use. I know most of the time I tell people use the labs levels of what's kind of low, moderate, and high. Do those really matter? I mean, if you got it, you got it.
Yeah, they do matter. Because with the methods that are out there now to detect allergens, they're extremely sensitive. Which for some applications, like if you're taking very short sampling time samples in occupational air sampling, for example, those I was talking about laboratory animal allergy testing, where you might be only looking at 20 liters of air. and looking for to hit OEL targets of 5 nanograms per cubic meter, which, I mean, that's tiny. The methods that we now have, they're sensitive enough to do that, to get to those levels. But that means that you also have those same sensitivities if you're sending in a collected dust sample, right? Okay. But in a dust sample, you know, there's always the difference between what is detectable and what's relevant.
Okay, right? That's a good way to put it. What's detectable, what's relevant. Okay.
Not everything that is detectable matters, right?
Gotcha.
So if you know, if you could detect that at some point there might have been a mouse in this room.
Yeah. Right? Okay, that's good. That's a great example.
Or
what does that mean?
Is there actually a level of mouse allergen present in this room that might cause health effects? There's a difference there, and that's and for some analytes, that's the difference between what's detectable and what is relevant is likely to actually be an issue, can be huge. So yes, it's those levels that the lab tells you, they have a purpose, because not everything that's detectable is worrisome.
But that's true for all indoor environmental testing too, right? I mean, is it detectable or relevant? You know, it's like
a test that's not very sensitive. You know, where whatever you detect is going to be relevant.
Sure.
Right. So, but for anything that has good sensitivity, there's always I got a number, but doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. All right, last one. So we're talking allergens, and I'm just wondering, for those who are allergic, I've got dust mite. I'm allergic to everything. Are you seeing any hope in the future that we will have better ways of treating allergies?
I really hope so.
You do? Okay.
I really hope they're going to figure that out at some point.
We're just not there yet, though, right?
I mean, there's some very promising therapies out there where, you know, you do immunotherapy where you get allergy shots.
But that's been around forever.
Yeah, it's been around, and but there's new things now where you don't have to actually get the shots, and where you get like sublingual tablets, drops, and things like that. So there are those kind of things that are being developed, and are in some are out, some are in various stages of clinical trials. But
are they all immunotherapy based, or are there also nothing where we're going to look at my DNA and go, hey, here's your problem, so let's fix that? No?
Those particular things are therapy based after the fact, you know, after you're already allergic. But it would certainly be a wonderful thing if we could figure out, you know, what's really the key to all of this, and is this a switch we can turn on? That would be the multi-billion-dollar switch.
Maybe I'll figure, Cliff, that's the multi-billion-dollar switch. Let's figure that one out, huh?
Go at it.
All right. Well, hey, this is Radio Hughes saying thanks to this week's guests. We had Dr. Wei Tang, Dr. Eva King, Bob Krell, and I think that was it, right? I didn't have anybody else on. And thanks to the Mid Atlantic Conference attendants for letting us barge in on your event here. And John, I think what we'd like to do is let's break for a commercial and thank our sponsors. And by the way, I want to thank our two newest sponsors, which I forgot to do during the introduction here. The Restoration Industry Association, RIA, let me get to it right here. RIA is the granddaddy of the restoration industry. Network with leaders. Learn more at restorationindustry.org. And by the way, we're going to have a show probably in July. We're kind of packed at the moment. Pete can see the Restoration Global. They just completed their first conference over in Australia. I look forward to talking to Pete. Also, AEML Laboratories, free FedEx shipping, great pricing, results for a rush. Learn at aelinc.com. All right, let's thank our other sponsors, John, and we'll get back with Dr. King.
IAQ Radio would like to thank our association sponsors. The Indoor Air Quality Association, a nonprofit multidisciplinary organization dedicated to promoting the exchange of indoor environmental information through education and research. Visit them at IAQA.org. Gray Wolf Sensing Solutions, who use advanced sensor software technology and embedded computers to provide superior environmental test instrumentation. Visit them, wolfsense.com. IAQ marquee sponsors are John Don Products, where restoration and abatement contractors shop. Visit them at jondon.com. That's JONDON.com. Healthy Indoor Magazine, a free online digital magazine for industry professionals and consumers. Subscriptions are available at healthyindoors.com. Particles Plus, engineers and manufacturers feature rich particle counters, air quality monitoring, instrumentation, and vacuum pump technology. ParticlesPlus.com. Count on us.
We've got Dr. Wei Tang. He's the founder and president and lab director at Q Lab in Metuchen, New Jersey. We're here at the Indoor Air Quality Association's Mid Atlantic Conference. Wei is the IAQA regional director of the Trenton chapter, as I understand it.
Trenton chapter.
Trenton
We don't have a regional director yet.
Oh, okay. Okay. He's the Trenton chapter director. We got a nice crowd here and some really great presentations. Bob Krell started it off today, and it was a very interesting discussion on the terminology we use to a big degree, and also answering what it is we do. I think we don't do a good enough job of that. We could talk to Bob about that in a moment. But while I've got Wei here, I wanted to ask him a couple questions. One, the lab business. How is business in general for labs? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of labs out there, and I'm always wondered, is it tough to make a living?
Okay. Well, before I answering that, I would like to thank Joe, Bob, and even Eva coming a long way down to Princeton, New Jersey to support IAQA Mid Atlantic Regional Conference. So I would like to thank them for that. Then we go on to a question. I think the lab business in general is good. There might have been some focus shifting on the traditional sampling and testing method. But in general, that business is good. I think not only the lab testing provide good data for investigation conducted by IEQ investigator assessor, and also a lot of time even that provide a good information for the consumer too, the homeowner, the building occupant, or the building manager. I think it serves different kind of purpose.
You have a couple of interesting papers, I guess, and then some things on the web. Mm-hmm. And I noticed one of them was about spore traps and some of the some things that consultants could do to ensure their spore trap data and the use of spore traps is a better representation of the indoor environment than just throwing one up and taking a sample and not thinking more about it. Can you give us a couple tips on the right way to take a spore trap and get the better data?
Certainly. Yeah, I just finished an IAQC PDC.
That's right. Okay.
Yes, I went down with the whole laboratory analysis, also the sampling. I also did the education section on exactly air sampling for mold. I think that a quick point that people can take home and really use particularly in their job is, number one, after you've taken air samples using spore trap, you have to check the debris loading on the infection trace.
How do you do that?
You can hold it up before you put on the label. Back on both sides, through a weak light source, and you can see through it because there's a pad. You can see through it, see the debris, and you can purposely overload a sample in a dirty environment and see how it looks like to be an overloaded sample. And then after you check that, I will recommend people load it at 50% of the capacity. Don't load over the cassette by, if you cannot see 50% of the trace being clear, then you got a problem whether you can have bouncing.
That's a great tip.
After that, you're going to have much less collection efficiency than a new one.
I see.
What I told people, why 50% is, imagine that you are the hockey player and the blade of your hockey stick broke in half. Would you keep playing the game, or would you get a new one?
Right.
When you only have 50% of hitting what you would have before. So what I recommend people to do is, at that point, if you load the infection trace to 50%, just grab a new cassette. Get a new one. don't keep it using the old one and losing all the spore that you should have capturing.
And just note that it was 3 minutes instead of 5 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, at that point, it's not accurate anymore because there are too many spores are being bouncing off. So checking the debris loading is one important thing, and also data interpretation. Make sure you compare both the concentration and the percentage.
Concentration and percentage.
Yes, they're both important. You got to check the percentage because if you're assuming everything indoor, all the airborne more spore are coming from outdoor, they shouldn't have additional source indoor to contribute to the airborne spore profile. I call it a profile. It's based on different percentage of the major airborne spore, and you have the profile. The profile shouldn't change too much when the air carry outdoor spore and migrate and go through the building enclosure.
Okay.
Yeah, you can have less, probably 10% of what you have outdoor, but the percentage of each sports group, if they are all in a similar size of 2 to 6 microns, they should behave very similarly when they are settled from the air, being filtered out by the filter in the HVAC system. They should behave very similarly. So when you have much less spore in indoor environment, if they are all coming from outdoor, the profile should remain very similar. And so when you compare the percentage, you can see that whether the profile, the ratio stay similar or not. If you one group, most likely the Aspergillus penicillium-like spore.
Yes, that's most common, right?
Is in a much higher percentage. That means there's an indoor source that add to that.
What is much higher? All right, I hear that there's little discussion of that. You know, if you're outdoor, let's say commonly when I take an outdoor sample, it will be 2, 3, maybe 5% will be aspen, if that.
Or even less.
Even less.
Yes.
Okay.
If you have 3 to 5 times higher in percentage, also concentration higher than outdoor, I mean that's a good reason you should conduct more investigation.
Okay.
Outdoor and indoor air sample comparison should never be used for the final conclusion of and more investigation. You need to discover the actual more gross source like where they are coming from.
Okay.
It can be from the garbage in the kitchen garbage can,
right?
Or maybe from a moldy library book, your kids took from school. So you cannot be sure of that any air sample result is due to a poor building performance and then even more gross. You have to really actually going to find those source before you can have your conclusion.
I've got one more question before we shift gears here. You've done a lot of work here with the IAQA, the Mid Atlantic Conference, the Trenton chapter. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I wonder when you sleep, and what for those that are thinking about maybe joining IAQA or participating in a chapter, what do you get out of all this work? I mean, I know you do. What do you get? Seriously,
well, I actually did lose quite some sleep last night. Every day, thinking about how did I miss anything. I actually did, but it's a minor thing. But I served on IAQA board of director for almost 9 years, 3 terms, and I come to learn about what IAQA really is. And the board of director I work with and the current one, they are all very highly professional people. They want to do good things, great things for the industry. They want to help people receive the education. They want to have the correct kind of the correct kind of education that we want to help advance the whole industry by educating our member and also people who are interested in joining IAQA and like our event, like our workshop. That's why I spend so much time putting up the local chapter workshop and also the Mid Atlantic Regional Conference. Hopefully we did attract more vendors and more audience attendees this time, and hopefully we can grow from here. Basically, we want to provide service to people in this industry, and whether they are member or not, to those activities, and hopefully those non-members they come to realize and know what IAQA is about, and then join us, for our mission to achieve the goal of advancing the whole industry's education by providing those classes and workshops.
I also noticed there's a lot of interaction between the consultants and the contractors here, and that you have a pretty good mix of those two. And I guess a lot of what the chapter meetings and this Mid-Atlantic Regional is getting people working together and introducing themselves to other people in the same area and so on. So
I think IAQA is very, very unique in a way that we have about one third of member.
1/3 of the members
are
is
consultant, and 1/3 member are contractor, remediation contractor. So I think this provides us a very good opportunity for people to join the discussion and find out really what's the best practice, what kind of knowledge, what kind of guideline, or what should we go about when we are working on the same job. How should a consultant and the investigator, the consultant and the contractor, they can all work together for the better good of the health of the occupant.
You do a great job here, Wei, and I really want to thank you for joining us and having me be part of this. And
my pleasure.
We look forward to coming back next year and bigger and better things.
Thank you.
All right. Well, what we're going to do is I'm going to shift Wei out of here. I'm going to go talk to Bob, Wei, and Eva switch spots. Let's chat with Bob Krell. We got Krell here, Healthy Magazine, and Bob did the first presentation today. I didn't get to catch anything, but I know a lot of what we're talking about is he kind of presents themselves to the public. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how you see us and how we represent ourselves to the general public.
I think one of the things that throws us into a little bit of a mix with the industry is that there seems to be a disconnect between the researchers, the practitioners, and and the end users, consumers, both commercial and residential. And that was really the crux of my presentation today. Was how do we better communicate? First of all, how do we better position ourselves? How does the industry better position itself to offer services that actually make sense and resonate with the consumers? And then moreover, how do you actually message that information so consumers understand it? And you have different levels of consumer knowledge. And I think one of the biggest problems was this disconnect that I see in the industry. We have a lot of great research going on. Sloan Foundation is doing a bunch of stuff. Many universities, many independent research organizations doing all kinds of good indoor environmental stuff. But it doesn't necessarily get distilled down and reach the general consumers, general public. So I think that's one of the things that we really have to work on as an industry.
Well, and you mentioned too, it doesn't necessarily get to the practitioners even. I mean, how many can read these professional publications on a regular basis, and then how do you take that information and put it into practice? That can be tough. And then take it another step like you just did down to the consumer level. When you said how many people even know what indoor air quality, what is indoor air quality, what does that mean? Kristen, your lovely wife there was apparently asked you the question. Well, what do you think? Do people even know what you're talking about when you're yapping about indoor air quality all the time? I mean,
yeah, that's the problem, Joe. I mean, all of us in the industry, I think, are jaded. We've been doing it 30 plus years doing this stuff, and the acronyms and all that stuff flow off our tongues. We're used to all the terminology, and I think we have this false assumption that the rest of the world understands what the heck we're talking about. And I think it's not the case. Yeah, it's not.
My company name is the IAQ Training Institute. I don't even use indoor air quality.
IAQ Technologies. I mean, come on.
Nobody knows what we're talking about. I mean, it's like we're talking to this computer right here.
I think the commercial world does. The commercial facility, property management world understands it a lot. But the general John Q. public consumer, I'm not so sure that they do.
Well, how do we bridge that gap? I mean, where do we, I know your presentation wasn't about answers. It was more about the questions.
I was trying to probe for some answers.
So what kind of answers did we get?
I think we got some. I think, like, for example, some of the representatives of the IAQA chapter here, suggested that organizations like IAQA can better, push information out from the academia or research sector and get it out to to their membership and to that, and ultimately to the public. I mean, that's one of the things we try to do with the magazines, with Healthy Indoors, is we're trying to be that portal, that a portal to do that. Whereas I think it's sadly missing. There's not a lot of information that gets to the general consumer, at least credible information. They go online and there's all this crazy stuff up there.
Well, the other interesting thing you did, and I have seen that commercial, by the way. What's the name of it?
Velox. It's the indoor generation.
Yeah, it's the indoor generation. If you get a chance, go to YouTube and put in the indoor generation. And Velox, manufacturer of skylights and windows and so on, put together a really interesting, I guess it's a campaign trying to get people to understand some of these things that we as indoor air people understand. You spend 90% or more, I think more than 90% of your time indoors, and that especially young people today, they're rarely to be outdoors. They're indoors on a regular basis, as we all are, and we don't know what's in that indoor environment a lot of times. How do we get attached to groups like that? You know, did they talk to somebody like you before putting that together? Do you know?
I have no idea. I mean, a marketing company put that together, and they did a very good job production-wise. But I think what they did is they took old information. Most of the stuff that's stated in the commercial is 20, 30 years old. Susan Valenti, my co-publisher, pointed that out. She goes, "This is old stuff that we've been talking about in the 90s, that they commercial." They did. They put the voice of a young girl, and they voiced it in such a way that it could, they were dark representation from the inside of house mock-up box with the fog coming up, or with mold all over it. So what they did is, I mean, they sensationalized that, but that's almost, in a way, that's almost what you have to do for the general public, especially for your Generation Z. You know, they're not going to sit there and watch something for 3 minutes unless it's entertaining.
It's got to be like 15 seconds or less, essentially. Maybe,
but that's a 3-minute video that's had almost over 8 million views in less than a month.
Wow.
So that's and it's because it's riveting. I mean, it's like a movie trailer, with The Shining meets indoor air quality. I mean, it's like, wow, you see this thing. So
ask you one more question before we flip over. I want to get Dr. Eva King in here, but you mentioned that healthy indoors is kind of designed for consumers. I mean, at least to some degree.
Yeah.
I get the impression, maybe I'm wrong, you're not getting as many consumers as you would like actually reading the magazine. And I'm wondering what you're doing, what your plans are to kind of answer your own questions from this morning. What are your plans to get more consumers to look at the magazine?
So, and yes and yes. First of all, we're a B2B sort of, in our print version. Our digital is designed, anybody in the world can get it for free. And so we are trying to, we're partitioning the information, and we'll be doing that a bit more starting in July. But what we're looking to do is have practitioner type information, industry information, as well as a lot of consumer level information, so we can be kind of that go-to central location. So, how do we get that out there? That's a challenging point. We have a couple of things that we'll be doing, reaching out to regional practitioners around the U.S. We'll start launching hard in the U.S., where we'll be working with regional companies to help them cooperatively promote us within their markets in exchange for advertising in their region.
Okay.
And so the thought is that we should be able to build on that quite quickly. You get 100 companies bringing in 25 readers a month. It's 2,500 readers a month, and they'll be mostly consumers. They'll be mostly the people that they work with. So that's the model that we'll be pushing out later this summer. But we're doing, everything that we can do. We'll do a lot more with social media. You have to do more with video.
That's what's hard.
You have to do more with video. You got to do video. That's what I firmly believe. You can't transmit information anymore without this medium.
Podcasts are supposedly booming, all-time high. The number of them I know is an all-time high. And true. Apparently people are listening to them. So, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just the length of, we do an hour show. That's tough for people to take an hour of the day. What do you think?
And for consumer, I don't think it's ever going to work. Consumers.
We're not here.
We're not. It's a whole different thing. This is an in-depth type discussion, so an hour makes sense. But I think you have to almost fragment your information, right, to the general public. Yeah. The attention span, it's just not there anymore. People don't read full articles anymore. Look at Axios, and the way Facebook has distilled information. They put articles in short 200, 300 word truncations, of the content, and that's what they're ingesting now.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we have to adapt to that as an industry. We can't, the stuff that worked 10, 20, 30 years ago, that's not going to work anymore.
For IAQ Radio, I'm Spike Reel saying thanks for listening.
Okay.